So what are you doing out here?
There is a legend in the jungles of the Amazon of a tree that heals all. It could change the world, but if it gets into the wrong hands, it could awaken a great evil. I believe that the legend is real,
Which it's not.
and I'm going to find it.
Which you won't.
And when I do, just imagine the lives that could be saved.
I've been looking for this tree longer than anybody. I've tracked the legend to every village, every island. Nothing. You're searching for something that can't be found.
But you've never had the key.
Let's do something that's safe. Let's go see some elephants.
There are no elephants in the Amazon, and I don't even like elephants.
Lady, everybody likes elephants. Know this about the jungle. Everything that you see wants to kill you, and can. Careful. They can smell fear.
I am not afraid. Oh my gosh.
Who brings a submarine to the Amazon?
Fire! Bang, 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 bang.
Good night. Oh, I got you.
Frank, get it.
Hold on.
Come on.
I got it.
Frank.
I don't got it.
No. For goodness sake, just leave me alone. That was a disaster.
Didn't go the way I planned.
Welcome, everybody, to Pop Culture. I am Scott.
I'm Jason.
And I'm Monica.
Disney's Jungle Cruise, or as I like to call it, Disney's The Mummy 2.0.
Yes, and a few other things. Maybe a bit of Pirates of the Caribbean 6.2.
Yeah, African Queen.
Romancing the Stone, Part 3, Electric Boogaloo.
Oh, yes. Yeah, a bit of that too.
National Treasure.
All of it painted with the thickest CGI brush we could find. So based on Disney's theme park rides, so this is, I believe, I could be wrong, I believe the third attempt Disney have done at adapting a theme park ride. No, fourth, because Witch Mountain, is that a ride as well, or is that an old movie?
I have no idea.
Definitely Pirates, definitely Haunted Mansion, definitely Jungle Cruise, as far as the Disney theme park rides turned into movies. Yeah. It's a bit of fun, I suppose.
Yeah, I'll start off by saying that I know this film isn't made for someone like me. It's on paper, the audience would be for families and definitely for kids. So with that out of the way, I didn't find a lot of enjoyment in this movie. I thought it was flashy and it had a good cast, but that's about where it ends for me.
Like, there were elements of it I enjoyed, and then there were things that painfully stuck out. So that's probably where it sits for me. The first things, like from the go, I was like really enjoying it, and I was like, the Mummy vibes were strong from the
From the rip off of the library stair scene, yeah, completely.
Yeah, to like her having the dandy fop brother, to the big American action hero comes along and helps her out.
To find the MacGuffin, yeah.
Yeah. And then the weird, eccentric people chasing after them.
Not just any eccentric, the Kaiser's son, okay? Proto-Nazis. So we're even ripping off Indiana Jones.
It's always the Krauts.
And the Spanish conquistadors as well.
Yes. That was probably the thing. The accent, his so beasting Matt Damon's accent is like
Don't
a moving
disrespect
dartboard.
it. Oh, leave Jesse Plemons alone.
He's beasting Matt Damon from now on. My mother, like, we watched it, like all of us in the household. We sat down and watched it together, and my mother was like, "Oh, what happened to Matt Damon? He doesn't look well."
Yeah. Like Monica, definitely not my cup of tea. It's one of those things where on paper it probably looked like a great idea and had all this potential. Dwayne Johnson's usually quite, I don't know, he's someone who's sort of fun to watch because he doesn't take himself seriously, but pushing it to the lame dad joke part, I was sort of going like, yeah, dad jokes can end up being funny if it plays out well, but this one just they fall flat as they should in terms of the
actual characters.
Yeah.
To his jokes.
Yes, yeah, and then Emily Blunt totally wasted. For me, it all came down to this really fast-paced editing. If you watch it, it's probably barely a shot that goes longer than 4 seconds. And it could be just a conversation where you'd expect a little bit more suspense and time placed on it for an emotional impact, and it just cuts. And it really...
There were points in like conversations where it even cut away to like frogs.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether they're trying to do that for pace or it was over bloated and cut down, but it actually really ruined it. And I couldn't even judge their acting, to be honest, because of the amount of cuts. You don't get enough time to see them really sort of, I guess, express something at a pace where you can absorb it. And then, of course, all the action scenes get lost in that as well, in being cut so quickly. I think there was a few scenes...
It's a pervasive, like, annoying problem of modern action cinema, I think, and I don't know why it's become the norm, because it's frustrating.
Yeah, but this wasn't even for the action scenes. It's just for conversation and romantic scenes and all sorts of things, and it just was really cut so fast. So it lost me pretty early on as a result of that. And I mean, I watched it all and I sort of enjoyed parts of it. But it was sort of stereotypical in a lot of respects. You know, they sort of did a token gay character who was pretty ineffectual most of the time, and so it sort of undermines even putting that into it.
Well, that was just, I think, a weak attempt at like giving him any depth of character. Is just to sort of swath over with a queer rush to make it like, oh, he's deep. This movie's deep. It's got something to say. It's like one throwaway line, and then we're just going to make him as camp as humanly possible.
I can't help but feel that's also a little bit of Disney trying to kind of appeal to everybody as well.
Look how inclusive we are.
Look how inclusive we are, especially with other live action remakes that they've done in the past, specifically The Beauty and the Beast, where Thew was meant to be the first open gay character. And, you know, it just shows him waltzing with one dude. I'm like, that's the moment you want to give this community, really?
Because it's like, but we don't want to upset the families. So we can hint at it, and we can just like, well, we wouldn't want to upset our conservative fan base or something to that effect.
Yeah, so it feels like that, I guess, reveal of the character just comes off as disingenuous, where it could have been a touching moment that could relate back to the story, but it doesn't.
No, it's there for like, to check a box.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
I think lots of it was a checker box.
Yeah.
It's a paint by numbers affair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But honestly, the movie, I was all of the like little issues aside, I was really enjoying it up until they kind of actually set off on the adventure. Like there's a quite cool, quirky like submarine fight in the harbor as they're leaving, and I'm like, hey, I'm enjoying this. This is a bit of fun. And then from the moment they left on the actual adventure, I was just like, it lost me. I don't know why. It just like the overwhelming use of CGI to the point of like, they're walking through the jungle and it's like, well, this is obviously a soundstage. There's a couple of plants, and then the plants behind them are fake. Like,
that's the part of the film that I think threw me off the most, was just the over-reliance on CGI. You can sort of tell that it's sort of everyone's acting on a green screen, and it doesn't use any kind of practical effects or stunts. Like, if you want to compare it to another Disney film that's based on a theme park ride, Pirates of the Caribbean had a similar thing, but they still had a lot of practical stunts and practical effects that based the film in a lot more reality.
Their ship was in water, for starters.
The ship was in water. When you see the fight with Jack Sparrow and Orlando Bloom's character on the wagon that seesaws up and down in the barn, that's really well choreographed, and that sort of puts that film in a more realistic place. Whereas this one, it's just like, I can't suspend my disbelief enough.
But nothing looked quite right.
A bit uncanny valley, yeah.
Yeah, and the conquistadors, it's like a bit of makeup and it would have looked amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. You could have
But
gotten
they're just
a really...
these like floating faces on like goofy bodies. It was just odd.
Yeah, I also didn't really buy into the noble story that they were trying to give the conquistadors from the get-go. Oh, they're looking to get this flower that can heal all wounds because this man's child is very ill and unwell, and then they integrated with the indigenous group and everything was hunky-dory. That's not what Spanish conquistadors did.
They were like playing in the yard with them and stuff.
It was just like, we're here to take a gold, here are blankets, by the way, that has smallpox. Just I thought it was just a complete sort of whitewash, trying to give those characters dimension when playing them as straight up villains would have been having them as straight up villains would have been perfectly sufficient.
But then you try to give them this like depth of character, and then when they like show up, they're just boogeymen. There's no like
Yep.
They're not there's no character to them, they're just scary monsters.
And they're left there at the end.
Yeah.
Sort of, I thought it was a bit weird. It was like, oh yeah, we'll just leave them. It's fraught with lots of problems, I find. I didn't find a lot of redeeming things in it, to be honest. For me, I enjoy all these sorts of spectacle films and action pieces, but this one just cut away too often to really enjoy any of it. And I think they tried to mix in too many elements to make it work really well, because I think some of the bare bones parts of it might have worked really nicely. Like, I do like the idea that the curse attached them to the river, and that could create a lot of tension and ways of working with suspense and action sequences. But that was just one little tiny element on top of the other elements that were there. Yeah. So yeah, it's too busy, and it was like watching an animated postcard. It's the best way I can describe it. And you'd be flicking through the postcards really quickly as you watch each animation, and that's sort of how it felt to me as I watched it. And character depth, not much at all, if any.
No, it suffers from that, like what the last few Pirates of the Caribbean movies suffered from as well. And I don't know why these movies need to be like 2.5 hours long.
Yeah.
I really liked the pulpness of it because I'm really into that stuff. But even then, it didn't give me enough of that mind, like besides like costuming and a little bit of production design.
I think with the pulp aspect, if they just stuck with it, it would have improved the film a lot more. But instead, it's trying to throw in every single pulp reference that it could, that it just reminds you of other movies that do it better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I like the periods, nice, but underutilized, like World War I's happening, and like nothing is sort of... Have the Germans show up. Why not? Like, go full Indiana Jones on it. Why not?
Yeah, exactly. There's nothing quite distracting for a film than, bringing in a couple of evil Germans.
Yeah, it's worked.
Yeah, it works.
It's worked. And the sort of twist with Dwayne T. Rock Johnson's character. It just felt I didn't care by that point.
No, and I wasn't convinced about any sort of romantic chemistry between the two characters either. No. It was sort of just, I don't know. I guess it was a childish thing. If we're talking about a kid's movie, then I'd go, all right, you could accept it to a point, but there was nothing in there to indicate that was going to happen or even should. So the romantic interest just wasn't developed properly whatsoever.
No, it was just a case of trying to sort of supercut their way through. Oh, they're bickering, they must be in love or something like that, which doesn't work. And you have to take time with these sorts of things. And I think, Jason, back to your point in terms of showing the pacing really quickly, it doesn't dedicate the time to sort of foster that relationship between the two and make it believable.
Yeah, there's the only point that I saw in the film that even gave it a good nod was when they were looking through the camera, the old film camera.
Yeah, that was nice that we go sort of silent.
Yeah, and it was sort of underutilized in some ways. I was sort of like going, that's a shame they didn't really play with that a bit more because it was a nice moment in it. And it was probably the outstanding moment for me when I was watching it, just seeing that. And then the transition a la Indiana Jones map transition from one spot to another.
They're going to do the map.
And they just did it the one time as well. Why not do it consistently throughout the film to make it a recurring thing?
And it was one of the longer cuts.
Yes.
Yeah, it was the longest. It was the longest single shot in the film. I mean, look, you could do worse, I suppose, as far as spectacle goes. See Space Jam: A New Legacy if you want to know how bad things can truly get. I don't think it's quite that bad, but it was just disorientating, and the candy effects just in my eyes all the time, from the opening shot of like an ant, a really bad CGI ant, all the way through to bad CGI London. Like I was over it. I was over the just look of it.
Yeah.
And I don't know why Disney insists on doing movies like this, but it feels like every time they do a big popcorn movie, it's just this CGI mess all the time, from Wrinkle in Time, Tomorrowland, all of them. And I don't know why. I don't know why they think that looks good. I mean, even the friggin' Fast and Furious movies are at least doing stunts.
Yeah, it's sort of hard to tell what stunts were happening in that one. In this one, I should say.
How bad did swinging on a vine look?
Yeah. It's just made me think, well, what other rides could they turn into a film? Will they do, the Ghost Train and stuff like that?
I wouldn't know what other, teacups. Let's do that one.
Teacups.
I do think they're trying to remake The Haunted Mansion.
Yeah,
so.
I heard that too.
Yeah.
Right.
Which of course they are.
Yeah, of course. Why not? It's
Remaking
Disney.
Pirates of the Caribbean too, I think.
Oh God.
I don't know. I think it's as much fun as lining up in the lines to these rides, to be honest.
and that is about right. So Jungle Cruise, if you love CGI bad romance, token characters, and a plot as deep as a teaspoon, this movie is for you.
Shout out to Romancing the Stone. Go watch that. It's a fun movie.
Go watch that. It's a much better movie.
It's a much better movie. Michael Douglas is awesome in it. Danny DeVito's funny.
It's got your Pulp Fix. Or go watch Indiana Jones, Go watch the granddaddy of them all. Anyway, I've been Scott.
I'm still Jason.
And I'm still Monica.